Oh, hey there. It's Tim from Protest the Hero. Now that you've seen my junk, I'm going to show you how to make a pizza. And you're watching Brutally Delicious on PureGrainAudio. So to start, we're going to make some homemade dough from scratch. Let me walk you through the ingredients. We're going to need flour, sugar, salt, and yeast mixed with olive oil and some very warm water. You'll also need a measuring cup, some measuring spoons, a mixing bowl, I prefer this pink manly mixing bowl, and a spatula to mix all the ingredients together. Okay, so starting with the flour, this is just all-purpose white. You can use whole wheat. Sometimes I blend half a cup of whole wheat, half a cup of white. Apparently the true pizza flour is the 00, but I couldn't find that at the local grocery store, so this will have to do. So I take a half cup measuring cup, put 2 cups in. So then get your teaspoon out, get a scoop of sugar, and then a half teaspoon. And then for the salt, it's 3/4, so I do a half. And then kind of just eyeball half of a half teaspoon. Again, it doesn't really matter if it's spot on because it's just a small ingredient. And then you got your pizza yeast. So it already comes pre-measured in the package. And I just cut one. And I should mention that this recipe is actually on the back of the pizza yeast package. That's where I got it from. So when I started making pizza, I saw that and gave it a shot, and I've always kind of just stuck to that recipe. So thanks to Fleischmann's for that. So yeah, there's the yeast. Just dump it all in there. And then usually, since that's all the dry ingredients, I just kind of shake that up. I guess you don't really have to mix it around. So now that all the dry ingredients are kind of mixed together, I'm going to add in the olive oil, which was 3 tablespoons. Careful not to pour it over in case you go too heavy on the oil. So there's that. And then lovely aqua. Nice, and you can see it's still steaming. It doesn't have to be boiling hot, but I think it does help somewhat with the yeast to activate it. And then yeah, you mix it all up. Come on, get in here and film this mixing. So I'm just trying to, you can see all the dry ingredients. I'm trying to get them mixed into the wet stuff. And as you kind of go, you see this kind of doughy substance begins to form. It doesn't matter if there's leftover flour. Usually there's going to be. And we actually are going to add more flour because it's really about getting the proper texture. But you just want to start with a pretty sticky doughy ball, and then you add more flour to kind of break it in and knead it. So, but you can see pretty quickly we're getting something that resembles a ball of pizza dough. Ideally, you just want to try to suck up all that dough, and also don't be afraid to get your hands dirty because you're going to be kneading it. So I just kind of flip it over and try to go into all the little spots. But yeah, there we have it. Okay, so since we still have a pretty sticky ball of dough, it's going to need more flour. So I usually just take like a heaping scoop. You don't really have to measure it. Anything left over can just be put on your counter to roll it out, and I just dump it on top like that. And then that's where you start getting your hands dirty. I push into the dough so it kind of opens up like the pores, and it really kind of absorbs the flour. And this is one of the reasons why you need to have a sweet, sexy apron, because as you're throwing the flour around. You don't want to get it all over your nice clothes. Okay, so now you got some dough. Now it's time to have a little bit of fun. So first thing I do is I take the dough out, and everything that's left over, I just dump it. And this is going to be your little pizza workstation. So since this recipe I found has been able to make about 3 of the thin crust pizzas that I make, I just let the dough kind of lie as it is, and I kind of eyeball it and cut it into 3 sections, and I try to make it equal, but it doesn't entirely matter. So I take my pizza cutter, which we'll be seeing more of later, and there. So we got three sections, and then I kind of toss 2 off to the side, and then I just start working with this one. So what I've found to be the best way to make a circular, proper looking pizza is squishing this all up. I guess that's kneading, and then slowly working it out into a circle. I've been told that it's not the proper way to make pizza by using a rolling pin, but I've found that's the best way to get it really thin. I can't do that by hand. So I start with hand, dipping it occasionally in the flour to continue to make it more doughy and less sticky. And then when you feel like it's a good consistency, I just, make it into a ball and then push it down with the heel of my hand. And by doing that, you see like that's pretty much a circle. And then from here, I just continue to push it down and make it a larger circle until it gets to a point where I have to suck it up and use the rolling pin. As you continue to push it out and stretch it, I find, again, you're going to find some sticky spots. So I flip it over constantly to keep it kind of consistent, because you don't, like you can see here, there's a lot of flour. Also kind of always using the heel of my hand, and I kind of push around the outside, and then you can use your fingers. But pretty much from here, as long as you have a pretty good looking circular shape, you can start rolling it out, and it will pretty much maintain that shape as long as you kind of turn it and continue. So once you've hand pressed your dough into a nice circle and you feel like you can't get too much further, that's the time to grab your rolling pin and start pounding it down and stretching it out and making it as thin as possible. So after your dough is rolled out and you're about to throw it into the oven, you have to puncture some holes in the dough so it cooks evenly. If you don't have a dough docker, you can use a fork and just go through and manually do it. But I found this thing, and no, it's not a medieval torture device. Makes it a really easy job, and you just run it back and forth over the pizza a couple of times, and you punch, thousands of holes, and you're good to go. Over the years of pizza making, I've definitely acquired new things and added things to my collection that makes the process a little bit more involved. So I don't want to put you off by saying, you need this, you need that, you need this. You really don't. All you really need is, ingredients and maybe something like a pizza pan like this that you can just throw your pizza on, throw it in the oven, cook it up. That's how I started doing it. And as I learned more, I started getting a little bit, more complicated with the process. So I like to use a pizza stone. So you can usually buy a ceramic stone from a kitchen store, throw it in your oven, heat up your oven. And I've just found that it's good for thin crust pizza, and it cooks the pizza a little more evenly. I also have this pizza device, which is a contained oven, which just has a ceramic stone. So it looks like this big spaceship wacky thing, but it really is just a super hot oven that will cook your pizza faster. And it's supposed to emulate a wood fire burning stove with 2 elements, top and bottom, and it's all kind of contained. And I like it because you don't have to turn your stove on to use it. It just plugs in, and it probably uses less energy and less time to cook your pizza. Now, one thing I have to mention, if you do get into the pizza stone area of pizza cooking, you need one other tool, which is a pizza peel. And I definitely don't need one that's this big, but I knew someone who hooked it up. The biggest problem about having a stone is getting your pizza on and off. So trust me, I think I've had friends that have failed because they get the pizza on and then they don't know how to take it off. So this thing is key for making that an easy process. When you have your dough ready, I like to pre-cook it because it's so thin and the toppings tend to really weigh it down. So I throw it on the oven and let it cook so we can put some toppings on it. So when you throw your crust in the oven, there's no set time. You should just kind of keep an eye on it, usually 3 or 4 minutes, but you just want it to firm up so you can put some toppings on it. I'm just having a look there. It looks like it's crisping up a bit, so I think we're good to go. So now that we got our pizza crust, now it's time to throw on some sauce and toppings and you're off to the races. One thing I wanted to mention is that a pizza is really just a bread of sauce and toppings. So you can really take any type of cuisine and any type of dish and make it into a pizza. Last night, for example, I had burritos for dinner. So I'm taking the leftover toppings from that, throwing it on a pizza, and we're gonna have a Mexican Fiesta pizza. Also, since we're in Canada, I have a poutine pizza that's very much like a poutine you would get when you're visiting Canada. So those are 2 examples of maybe non-conventional pizzas that you would think of. I find over time that you kind of figure out which combinations work together and you kind of start building a nice little menu of all the different pizzas you can make. And since my wife usually takes care of all the toppings, and I call her the toppings mistress, I feel like I should change my apron, and I'll see you in a minute. So now that I'm properly dressed, let's look at some toppings. Okay, so now it's the moment we've all been waiting for, building the pizza. For the poutine pizza, we're gonna have the crust as the base, gravy, fries, cheese curd, and then sprinkle the cheese on top. We made them in advance because it takes a little while to cook them up. But basically I just took a white potato, chopped it into a fry shape, put a bunch of olive oil and garlic, and then threw it in the oven for an hour, hour and a half at 400. So we got a nice ball of mozzarella, and we're just gonna grate it. And then it's the last topping, and we can build the pizza. So for the last pizza, we're gonna do the Mexican Fiesta pizza. This pizza came out of all the leftovers from last night's burritos. This one's gonna have a crust, salsa instead of tomato sauce, and then ground round, which is vegetarian ground beef, refried beans, Mexican rice, jalapenos, and hot sauce, and then cheese on top. So we start with Newman's salsa. I'm gonna blend that with a friend of mine's hot sauce, Conrad's hot sauce, and then put a mixture of the refried beans, rice, ground round, and then sprinkle some jalapeno peppers on top, and then we'll do the cheese all over. And the very last step, throwing it in the oven. Let's cook this thing. Now that it's in the oven, takes about 8 to 12 minutes to cook. I like to keep an eye on it, turn it occasionally just so it gets evenly cooked throughout. Then we put it aside to cool down and then we munch. It's a cheesy pizza. Another thing I find with learning to use your pizza peel is some spots are better than others to lift it. So as you see there, I had to find the right kind of spot to get under it to turn it. That's why you always need to have a backup pizza peel. Holy. So I just turn the pizza occasionally to try to make sure everything is cooking evenly. As we saw, the cheese was leaking over on one side, so by turning it, sometimes that makes it not all just pile up there too. But overall, just cooks it a little more evenly. And also a good excuse to check in on it once in a while. It's smelling good. Pizza's pretty much ready. I take it out, throw it on a plate to cool, and then when it's cool, that's the best time to cut it up and then put it on a serving plate. Holy, it's boiling up. Now this is how you make brutally delicious pizza. So there it is, the poutine pizza. Now we're gonna cut it up and get ready to enjoy it. Bon appetit.
I think we gotta give some to this guy.
Enjoy. Yeah,
That's really good.
passes the test. Oh, you take it away. So I hope this was helpful in showing some light on the best way to make pizza at home. This has been something that's been part of our family's little tradition for over 5 years. And it's been constantly evolving. Even today, using the leftover burrito stuff, it was the first time I'd ever put refried beans and rice on pizza. But we've yet to try it, but it looks delicious. So as you can see, it's just constantly changing and trying new things and keeping it exciting. So thank you for checking this out and for Pure Grain for putting this all together. And I hope it inspires you guys to get out there and make your own pizza. You want some? Oh, don't you dare. Don't you dare.
One of these days.